my name is Sassine. For my presentation, I will be covering forest pest management. So, what exactly is forest pest management? Well, in simple terms, it is a practice of monitoring and managing pests and environmental information with pest control methods to prevent damage to forests and forest habitats by the most economical means. Forest pest management practices vary from region to region and particularly country to country, according to the habitat and types of forest present. So what is a pest? Well, a pest is a plant or animal which is detrimental to humans or human concerns, such as agriculture or livestock production. Alternative meanings to this definition of forest pest management include an organism that causes nuisance and epidemic disease associated with high mortality, specifically plague. In this broadest sense, a pest is a competitor of humanity. We'll now look at potentially positive and negative side effects of these pests on forest habitats. We'll also examine potential management options available. Insects are a natural and necessary part of a healthy forest ecosystem. Most insect species are actually beneficial, despite what most may think. They speed the decay of dead vegetation, releasing nutrients for other plants. Many types of wildlife require insects for food. Bees and other insects pollinate forest plants. Some insects prey on other insects that are harmful to plants, keeping pest outbreaks in check. Many insect populations experience a natural boom-bust cycle. Every year, fertile adults or pupa survive the winter and emerge in the spring. They reproduce and increase in number through the summer and decline again in the winter. Environmental conditions and food availability control their populations. For those that feed on trees, food availability increases when the trees are under stress and less able to defend against or rebound from insect attack. When susceptible trees are abundant due to prolonged stress, insect populations increase to the extent that food is available. After an initial boom period, they may last for several generations. The insects reach a level that is no longer sustainable by the available food. Then the population crashes until the next cycle begins. The crash may be caused in part by buildup in the population of natural enemies of the insect, for example birds, predatory insects, who themselves are responding to an increased supply of food. When insect outbreaks of this kind are widespread and prolonged, there could be an immense amount of tree mortality. More commonly, tree mortality due to forest insect is localized, limited to a few trees in a small area. In many cases, healthy trees can repel insect attacks or survive them. Insects kill more trees annually than wildfire. However, they usually take their toll on individual trees or small groups of trees, unlike the spectacular large-scale destruction of forest fires. While insects may be the identifiable cause of tree injury and death, the underlying reason for insect damage is trees are in poor condition due to stress. Stress is caused by drought, competition for resources, and other environments. Insects challenge trees constantly, but generally only the stressed are successfully attacked and succumbed. Maintaining healthy, vigorous trees is the best defense against insects. A variety of pests present in this forest ecosystem. The first one we'll cover is predators. Predators are mainly free-living species that directly consume a large number of prey during their lifetime. Parasitoids, which lay their eggs on the body of a host, human or insect, and use them as a source of food for developing larvae. The host is ultimately killed. Most insect parasitoids are wasps or flies, and usually have a very narrow host range. Microorganisms, which are pathogenic microorganisms, include bacteria, fungi, and viruses. They kill their hosts and are relatively host-specific. Various microbial insect diseases occur naturally, but may also be used as biological pesticides. When naturally occurring, these outbreaks are density dependent in that they generally only occur as an insect population becomes denser. We will now look at the combined use of parasitoids and pathogens. In cases of massive and severe infection of invasive pests, techniques of pest control are often used in combination. An example being that of the emerald ash borer, an invasive beetle from China, which has destroyed tens of millions of ash trees in its introduced range in North America. The discovery of several parasitoid wasps, a solitary pathogenic egg parasitoid, and a gregarious larval ectoparasitoid, which have been introduced and released in the United States as possible biological control of the emerald ash borer. We will observe indirect control now. Pests may be controlled by biological control agents that do not prey directly upon them. For example, the Australian bushfly is a major nuisance pest in Australia. but native decomposers found in Australia are not adapted to feeding on cow dung, which is where bush flies breed. Therefore, the Australian Dung Beetle Project released 49 species of dung beetle, with the aim of reducing the amount of dung and therefore also breeding sites of the fly. Biodiversity. Biological control can potentially have positive and negative effects on biodiversity. The most common problem with biological control occurs via predation, parasitism, pathogenicity, competition, or other attacks on non-target species. Often a biological control agent is imported into an area to reduce the competitive advantage of an exotic species that has previously invaded or been introduced there, the aim being to thereby protect the existing native species and ecology. However, the introduced control does not always target only the intended species. It can also target native species. In Hawaii during the 1940s, parasitic wasps were introduced to control lepidopteran pests, and the wasps are still found there today. This may have a negative impact on the native ecosystems. However, host range and impacts need to be studied before declaring their impacts on the environment. Vertebrate animals tend to be generous feeders, and seldom make good biological control agents. For example, the cane toad was intentionally introduced to Australia to control the introduced French cane beetle and the greyback cane beetle, pests of sugar cane. 102 toads were obtained from Hawaii and bred in captivity to increase their numbers until they were released into the sugarcane fields of the tropic north in 1935. It was later discovered that the toads could not jump very high, so they could not eat the cane beetles which stayed on the upper stalks of the cane plants. However, the toad thrived by feeding on other insects, and it soon spread very rapidly. It took over native amphibian habitats and brought foreign disease to native toads and frogs, dramatically reducing their populations. Also, when it threatened or handled, the cane toad released poison from parasitoid glands on its shoulders. Native Australian species such as gonas, tiger snakes, and dingoes that attempted to eat the toad were harmed or killed. This example shows how small, misintroduced organisms can alter native biodiversity in large ecosystems. If native species are reduced or eradicated, a domino effect can take place until a new equilibrium is reached. Organisms, through the process of evolution, may achieve increased resistance to biological, chemical, and physical methods of control over time. In the event the target pest population is not completely exterminated or still capable of surviving, the population could acquire a tolerance to the applied pressures. This can result in an evolutionary arms race with the control method. Successful biological control reduces the population density of the target species over several years, thus providing the potential for native species to reestablish. In addition, regeneration and reestablishment programs can aid the recovery of native species. To develop or find a biological control that exerts control only on the target species is a very lengthy process of research and experiments.